Okay, so this is my Why Does Literature Matter presentation. For me, literature provides space to discuss important social issues and the human experience. Beginning the semester, I had the belief that most literature was used to express heartbreak and tragedy. I didn't really understand that there was often a much deeper meaning behind most texts, and that texts had different uses. However, as I have moved through this semester, I have discovered that there are many reasons people write, and many different formats that literature can take. Not all literature is romantic, and oftentimes it isn't romantic at all. The first text that really portrayed this idea for me was Ars Poetica number 100, I believe. In the poem, there's a line that states, "Literature is not all love, 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 and I'm sorry the dog died," which perfectly sums up my perception of literature when I first started this course. I came into it, like I said before, thinking that it was all about romance, and so after I read this poem, it really made me reflect on my original perceptions. So I'm going to go ahead and play that now.
Poetry, I tell my students, is idiosyncratic. Poetry is where we are ourselves, though Sterling Brown said, every eye is a dramatic eye, digging in the clam flats for the shell that snaps, emptying the proverbial pocketbook. Poetry is what you find in the dirt in the corner, over here on the bus, God in the details, the only way to get from here to there. Poetry, and now my voice is rising, is not all love, 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 and I'm sorry the dog died. Love, and I'm sorry the dog died. Poetry, here I hear myself loudest, is the human voice. And are we not of interest to each other?
So as Alexander states, literature can really be found anywhere. It can be found in the dust in the corner, on a bus, and as the last line stated, poetry is the human voice. After reading this, I realized that literature is important for one's voice to be heard, and literature is used to express one's own beliefs and opinions, and it can look different for everyone. So the first text that we read this semester that really stood out for me was The Yellow Wallpaper by Charlotte Perkins Gilman. It stood out to me because of its portrayal and perception on social issues. The portrayal of mental health and women's rights was something that I believe is still relevant today. And in the short story, we hear the experience of the speaker and how she was telling everyone she felt sick and thought that something was wrong, but everyone just acted like she was crazy because she was a woman, and instead just told her to rest, which was known as the resting cure in the 1800s, and in turn that just made her get worse. The fact that Gilman was brave enough to write and publish this piece in the 1800s when mental health was still a really taboo topic really stood out to me, and it just showed me how important literature is in speaking about issues that are important not only to oneself but to society as well. Moving on, another short story that I felt was really important and brave in its discussion of social issues was Sonny's Blues by James Baldwin. And although social issues wasn't so much of the main discussion in this short story, I believe that Baldwin did a great job of weaving in stories and examples of social issues throughout the text. He portrayed addiction and the many ways that it can affect not only the addict, but the people close with the addict as well. And not only did he portray addiction, but he portrayed compassion and forgiveness for the addict, which I don't believe was a very talked about thing in the 1950s when this was written. Addiction was more seen as you cut the person off and that's that type of thing, or it wasn't even talked about at all. So I really enjoyed that portrayal of addiction in Family. And it also portrayed some racism and how Black people were treated in the 1950s, specifically in Harlem. Like I said, these weren't really the main issues discussed in the story, but the way that they were portrayed I felt was really important. The more obvious text regarding social issues was Let America Be America Again by Langston Hughes. He discussed many different issues from poverty to immigration to racial issues and many more. This text is one that I believe is still very relevant today, specifically the stanza, "Who said the free? Not me, surely not me. The millions on relief today, the millions shot down when we strike, the millions who have nothing for our pay, for all the dreams we've dreamed, and all the songs we've sung, and all the hopes we've held, and all the flags we've hung. The millions who have nothing for our pay, except the dream that's almost dead today." This stanza I feel like really relates to today's social issues and shows that America still has a long way to come. Between racial and gender issues, the poverty in America, and the police brutality that we see so often on the news today. I was really inspired by this poem because of the ending when Hughes states that he believes America can one day reach its potential. I think that hope is just something that we could all really hold on to, and just really shows us that it's not all lost. Finally, A Raisin in the Sun was one of my favorite plays that we watched/read this semester. Again, it really displayed the racial issues in the 1950s and 60s, with this one being in Chicago. And I really enjoyed this one since it was on screen. We were able to see the emotion portrayed and what that director's perception of the text was. This was just another great example of how literature can be used to discuss social issues. So what have I learned this semester? The main thing I think I've learned is that there's no right or wrong way to do literature. It can look different for everyone, and it can still hold meaning, no matter what it looks like, no matter what form it takes. It's an artistic expression that should just be valued in every form, and oftentimes what is said has a much deeper meaning than what was said at first glance. This one was one I struggled with throughout the semester, but I think I've ultimately gotten better at it throughout. I now am able to look at certain texts and know and analyze what it's truly saying rather than just taking it at face value. This really started when reading The Yellow Wallpaper, because at first I was trying to just take it at face value and think oh, this wallpaper is just driving her crazy. But instead, when I finally looked and analyzed it and did the Socratic seminar on it, I realized that it was actually a much deeper conversation being had about mental health. So throughout my life and growing up, I could always be found with a book. No matter where or when, it was a tool that I used to escape from life. I've always loved books, and that was my relationship with literature. Going into the semester, I was not entirely sure what I was getting myself into. I don't really read poems or short stories or plays, so I wasn't exactly sure what texts we were going to be going over. The different formats of literature that we read and the many different perspectives that we got from discussions opened my eyes to the true importance of literature. It's not just a tool used to escape from reality. It's used to educate, to imagine, and to put yourself into someone else's shoes. And I realized it's not just novels, it's short stories, plays, poems, and musicals, and that it can really be found anywhere and everywhere. And after this semester, I really feel like I've learned a lot more about the human experience. from aging through the honey bear to the long-lasting effects that war can have on a person, to the discussions of racial issues, mental health, women's rights. I've gained a better understanding of all of these issues, not only in today's day, but in the previous decades as well. And the readings from this semester have given me the opportunity to learn about different people's experiences and how it has impacted their lives. It's really given me an opportunity to see a more well-rounded view of humanity. So to end, again, with the function and value of literature, I believe that literature is a space and opportunity for one to express their own opinions, values, and beliefs, as well as discuss important issues in life. It's an opportunity to educate and an opportunity to share one's own story. It's a creative expression that brings more value to society. Thank you.